Hi everyone, today is Friday, October 9th, and welcome to the Morning Brief. This is the channel to get your second stimulus and pandemic news update in a clear and concise summary. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, like, and also the bell button. In this video, I will be going over first stimulus news and second COVID-19 infection news. First, in stimulus news. In the last few days, it has been truly head-turning. Trump, in the last week, has been taking a totally different stance in stimulus and has been flipping back and forth. President Donald Trump, in a head-spinning reversal recently, has told allies he's now interested in a one-time large stimulus deal, according to members in the White House. The person stressed it's unclear exactly what is Trump's vision of a large deal, and there's still a lot of large barriers. But when it comes to reaching an agreement, it looks as though talks have been largely stuck in the same place for a few months. As a result, the stock market has been extremely volatile this week with Trump's tweets, with daily moves in the 2 to 3% range on the S&P 500. We also heard from Drew Hamill, Pelosi's deputy chief of staff, tweeted yesterday that the Speaker and Secretary Mnuchin spoke at 3 p.m. today for 40 minutes. So in her tweet, she tweeted, "The Speaker and Secretary Mnuchin spoke at 3 p.m. today for 40 minutes. Their conversation focused on determining whether there is any prospect of an imminent agreement on a comprehensive bill. The Secretary made clear the President's interest in reaching such agreement." The Speaker pointed out that, unfortunately, the White House communications director contradicted that assertion during the call. The Speaker trusts that the Secretary speaks for the President. So there was a lot of back and forth between the speakers and also on Twitter. So it was kind of unproductive. So even that tweet was called into question by Pelosi on the call, who noted that another White House official had just earlier Thursday afternoon contradicted that assertion. But Mnuchin asserted that the California Democrat, the president, was interested in a comprehensive deal, and Pelosi, on her call with her leadership team later in the afternoon, said she believed the talks were back on, according to a source familiar with the call. So as I said, this caps off kind of an insane 48 hours where Trump initially on Tuesday, he took to Twitter and he had that massive tweet saying to call off all stimulus until the election. And that sent the stock market crashing the next day. But however, the next morning he called for smaller piecemeal legislation to address the specific hardships caused by the coronavirus, like i.e. a bailout for airlines or hospitality, something very targeted and specific. However, Democrats have repeatedly rejected this. And by Wednesday night, Mnuchin called Pelosi and said the president was interested in coming back to the table. So now the last days, the White House officials have said repeatedly that negotiations on a comprehensive deal were over, and the preferred pathway was a series of smaller scale bills. But however, as we've seen now, the president is once again open to a bigger deal. So Pelosi, who has repeatedly rejected GOP efforts to push piecemeal bills, and however, she has once again on Thursday said that she's open to a larger deal, and she would provide a deal that would provide payroll support for airlines, and said Democrats would remain at the table in case the White House returned. So where are we right now? Mnuchin had put roughly a 1.6 trillion number on the table in the negotiations Trump had cut short last week. But multiple people involved said Pelosi made it clear she's not going to go still below the 2 trillion amount. So there's still that gap of 400 billion that we discussed for the last weeks. And in other news, we learned of further layoffs. We heard about layoffs from the airlines like American Airlines and Disney laying off 28,000. And then yesterday they came out and said they were laying off 9,000 part-time workers. Amtrak is also demanding that they want a targeted bill to help their industry in the rails. Otherwise, they'll be cutting 2,500 jobs if they don't pass a targeted stimulus package. And they're going to defer other capital improvements like improving their cars and rails if they don't get a stimulus and cut for their workers. So that's it for the stimulus news. We're still kind of in a deadlock and a lot of rhetoric back and forth on Twitter. So let's go over the COVID infection news on Trump. So there was a Fox interview with Trump last night, and Trump said he may be tested for coronavirus on Friday, but he refuses to confirm that he's negative right now. So this is some of the quotes he said on the Fox News interview. "I'm back, quote unquote, I'm back because I'm a perfect physical specimen and I'm extremely young. So I'm lucky in that way," he claimed during the interview. Here's another quote. "I'll be tested pretty soon, but I'm essentially very clean," he added. He also said, "I don't think I'm contagious at all." And he stressed that he's still taking the steroid dexamethasone that is for serious COVID patients and is known to reduce fevers. The strategic communications director, Alyssa Farah, also said that information about Trump's private medical history is very private and shouldn't be released. And finally, in other news, we learned that the Regeneron cocktail that was given to Trump initially was derived from basically harvested cells from an abortion. Cells. So Regeneron Pharmaceutical, which developed the antibody cocktail initially given to Trump, stated the emergency antibody that Trump received last week was actually developed with the use of a cell line originally developed from abortion tissue, according to the drug maker. So this is interesting because the Trump administration has been taking increasingly firm lines against medical research that used harvested fetal tissue from abortions. So, like, if we look back on 2019, Trump moved to try to curtail the ability of the National Institutes of Health to fund such research. And many hailed this as a victory for pro-life researching. And they thanked Trump personally for taking decisive action against what they called, quote unquote, outrageous and disgusting practice of using experimentation using baby body parts. So this is really interesting and controversial news. So we'll see if this brews up into another firestorm before the November 3rd election. That's it for now. I think you're all caught up. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe. See you next time.